Great. We'll be all good. Awesome. So let's go ahead and stand up, have our band around, but we don't need it yet, or your piece of fabric, and have 3, 4 breaths to scan and bring your awareness into the physical body. The messages there, the quality of your breath, quality of your inner body, your tissues, your feeling. And let's wake up with the invitation to shake, but we're going to tap. We're going to tap, but while we do that, you can also kind of shake. I'm not going to lead that as much. Let's start with the lower body. We're going to end with the upper body. So around the volume of the pelvis, as you're aware of your breath, and down the legs and up the legs in different places. And while we do this, let yourself lean your spine off to kind of a side angle. So we don't need to go straight down the center. We can tip like we're pouring out of our ear. Feel free to stay anywhere you need longer. Pat yourself on the back and down and up the arm. Every line, every spot, painting your arm with your tap, with your percussive awareness. Maybe a little stretch to get under the ribs and the armpit. And then the other side. Jaw relaxed, breathing, if you can, through your nose. And let it be a bit of a love tap, right? So you get to decide if places need a little more love, a little more intense love, a little softer love. And all around the belly, up through the sternum, collarbones. And then finishing on the head. A lot of times we start in the head. Fingertips like raindrops, big raindrops. And imagine you're tracing the sort of edges of your skull. So around the ears, around the back to start. And down the jaw, we'll count that as the edge of the skull. And then all around the head. And while we do, imagine the roundness of the back of your head. And then tap down the neck and feel the curve of your neck go the other way. So we have the roundness of the head going out, convex, and then concave in the neck. And then we can't quite reach all the way down, but tap as much as you can with one hand between your shoulder blades, maybe up from the back, and just sense the thoracic spine, the rib parts of the spine going convex like the head, and then tap on the lower back, concave going in, and then tap on your sacrum. And functionally, we can say that's also going out. And then just a little shake in your knees. And we're going to imagine those alternate curves continuing to go in on the knees. Because when we keep a little buoyancy in the joint, the knee goes in rather than locks. And then shake out your feet and imagine your heel going out, convex, and the arches of your feet, concave. So all of these curves we want to have in relationship. None of them are flat or static. Last 2 moments if there's anything that needs to jiggle or shake. And we'll imagine this center line in our focus of the spine with a sense of elongation or flow. And just give yourself a little sway where you feel that length and it's not static. It's going to also shift and maybe wave a little bit. Jaw relaxed. We're going to turn the volume up on this momentarily. See if you can receive and give and pour through your feet and feel a follow through that starts to not only curve kind of in the side, but also add the sense of a spherical movement. So I'm not only going to the side, but I'm also rotating and sort of folding forward. It doesn't have to be that everywhere, but just notice. And it's not a collapsing, but a gentle flowing upward kind of feeling. So we have this idea of pouring. What if we wanted to stay in one place? See if you can pour and let that wave kind of dampen and get curious where you land. And then take a few more steps to change your position and then pour and let the wave kind of dampen and change. Pour and let it dampen. Exploring on your own, and we're just bringing the connectivity from the support of the ground all the way up. A little bit of sense of the volume of your body. Two more. And hopefully the sense of the three-dimensionality of our movement. So we're not just facing one way or feeling from the front. And noticing that the dampening is like a wave that gets smaller. So there's a back and forthness. Let's walk a little quickly. I know it might be a small space, might be a big space. Go for it if you have it. And we have to stop, but we're not going to stop abrupt. We're going to see if we can stop with one foot in front and then feel the back and forth dampening. So our speed is going to go into the ground. Technical term. We're going to ride that down to the ground. Let's try it again. Walking around, a little fast. Nothing rush, a little fast. Maybe there's a little shaking, bouncing going on. And then you got to stop, but you're going to go down into this groundedness. Two more. There's lots of parts of our body we could feel this. See if you can feel it. What's going on in your spine when that happens? One more. And then come to a wide stance. And let's just centering, take a breath, expand. Palms down and scan your body. Feel free to bend your knees if you like. Two more. Letting the heart and the gaze lift a little. And we explored that for the shoulders. And it's also so powerful. We could think even of the eyes as the top of the spine because it organizes as much as from below. Bring our feet closer together. And months ago, we played with pouring our weight towards the main support. And I want to just revisit that in a simple step. So I'm going to step and ever so slightly shift my weight over that step. My other leg could be hanging, it could be up, it could look like a tree pose. And let's just play with feeling where we're symmetrical versus this little teeny lean. It's not a giant lean, little teeny lean, and see if you can feel a difference in the effort. And then take step on the other foot, pouring. It's kind of like one little frame of what we played with before. And then explore leveling off and what muscles need to work. They're possible. Maybe we want the work, but notice probably a little sweeter. One more time, each leg. And the other leg can play around. Can be simple, up to you. Breathe. Can you still feel the volume of you? And last side when you're ready. Balance becomes Something so more and more important. Right? More and more important. Okay. Feet wide again. So we're going to lean towards the main support. We're not going to go on one leg, but let's shift from one to the other and sweep an arm into an extension, a side bend. We can use no hands, hands or elbow for support. Look up, feel you're looking, lift your heart. And then let's come down a ramp and shift from the leg we were on to the other leg and rise up a ramp, looking to the fingers, and then we'll flow back and forth. This is our basic pathway. And curious if you can feel the shift from your legs through the spine. So it's almost as if we have no goal with the destination and we're following it through rather than say, oh, look at that shape. I'm going to make it happen. And you could play with being a little more forward, a little lower on your elbow. You could play with being a little higher up. For like 3 more cycles, tuning into the support and leaning towards it and what feels good. Feel free to stay in any place that asks for more attention. And if you had paint on your spine, notice the ramping and the rounding and the curving. Finishing off on whatever the second side is. And then finding our way back up to a little shift. I'm going to stay wide and probably somewhat wide. And let's just compare as if we were level. You know, maybe that's a choice. And we want to feel what is working, where we feel this movement transitioning through. And then let it ripple through your spine. Notice the different quality for yourself. And maybe even out through your arms. Options. We're going to take this down towards the floor. So we're upright. And eventually we're going to start to come more level. And eventually we're going to let our torso drop and still feel the pushing through and rippling through the spine, the waviness of the spine. Feel free also to use a halfway point if you have any furniture. You need to come on down. Waving through the spine and the head and even beyond almost. Maybe 2 more. Always tuning into what your body is happy with, satisfied with. And then at some point, we'll let ourselves turn all the way towards one leg to come on down to hands and knees. Now let's stretch the right leg back. Toes on the floor, wag your heel. And see if that wagging can travel through your hip and up through your spine so that there's a resonant wag, we could say, in your low back, your heart, maybe even your head. And then let's turn that heel down and see if we can feel a peeling open, a spiraling from the heel to the heart, a big circle with the top arm, and then come down with your eyes, your heart, your hips, your heel. So we're finding this waviness now in a spiral. 2 more times. First, we're unlocking the chain, and then heel comes in. Track that through your leg, through your pelvis, through the lower, through the middle, through the upper spine. Spread your fingers as you swim over the top and come back down. One more. So hopefully each time we have a bit more subtlety in the articulation. Just see what you can sense, heal, ripple, peeling open. And back to hands and knees. Stretch your left leg back on the toes. And just a little wagging first. Could be different. I can tell this side did not travel up my spine right away. It was not moving between my shoulders at first. So now just waiting for the wave to sort of penetrate the density. And then heel down, spiral, feeling one part of the body following the next. Swim and stretch, and then come down, eyes, heart, hip, leg. And two more. Go inside of the volume of you and feel the sequential articulation, stretching at the top. Nice. Third time on your own time. Come on back to hands and knees. A little housekeeping in my head here. So, feeling how the limb is speaking to our spine, let's explore the arm. Reach your right arm forward. Pull yourself back. You can even shift the hips back. And then swim up to the sky. And as you look at your hand, notice what's happening in your spine. A side bending, a rotation, and arching. And then pull back again. And swim, feeling not only the shoulder, but your upper back. One more. Looking up. And then change to the other side. And pull the left arm. So we're thinking swimming and just observing how that can impact so much more, especially through the upper spine, but noticing all the way down to your lower back. One more. And then coming to hands and knees, let's turn the toes under. Lift your hips, give your knees a little break, and instinctive, intuitive welcoming to your hamstrings, whether that's walking, wagging, pulsing. And we often think about the hamstrings and maybe the shoulders here, but notice that the spine tends to stay right in this center line. We'll come back to this in a moment. Can you feel a difference from your default to the idea of it going beyond your body, a little bit of extension? And then come down, rest, kneeling or child's pose, just to let the belly breathe, to empty any extra effort we don't need right now. And then come back to hands and knees, and we're going to repeat the exercise we did last week because it's so good, and I think the mic volume was terrible. So I want to make sure there's a good one for you. But we're going to have a compare and contrast. And our compare and contrast is going to be two things. One from hands and knees. I'm going to think about the ends of my spine, and I'm going to touch my head, even though that's not technically vertebrae. Energetically, for an upright being, we could say that the crown and the tail are the energetic ends of our spine. And I'm going to wag my tail and think of listening to that. So my tail goes to one side. I'm going to also tip my ear, my head. So I'm going to wag my tail to the left, tip my ear, and it pours my weight into that corresponding arm and knee. So it's the opposite of what we did standing, where we shifted our support and then we leaned toward it. Now we're leaning, and the leaning shifts the support. Exactly. And then we come back down. I'm going to go to the right, so I'm going to wag my tail to the right, listen to the right, and feel how that shifts my weight away from the left hand and knee. I can move my left foot to the floor and push a little bit into my right hand if I want that tone, and then come back. it's small. Try it again. And really feel as we side bend our hip and our ear to the left, sort of the timing and the articulation, the flow that you feel, the subtlety that you feel, and return and to the right, leaning to the right. And then to come back, we feel the spine just gently return to neutral. Let's do the same thing with our toes under and start to walk this like wagging side bend up into down dog. So I'm going to lean to the left. I'm actually going to stay on that right foot as I lean to the right, lifting the knees. So my feet pivot, and I'm going to lean to the left and go up a little higher. Yeah. And really imagine that whole spine, lean to the right, beyond my tail, beyond my crown. 2 more each side. You might be all the way up to down dog, but notice what happens, probably a side bend that moves over the top hamstring stretch to a side bend. 1 more each side, sensing the volume and the spherical nature of this little side bend downing dog. Downing dog? Side bending down dog. Hopefully you have a read of how that feels. And then come on down to hands and knees. Find your band. We're not going to go to every spot. I will name them so that you have this recording. We started last time articulating at the tail. Let's start at the top of the sacrum. So you could start at the top of the tail. And if you have a loop, you can go for the doubling up for more intensity or just one band. So at the hands on the hips, the bony part that you feel in your thumbs, the like top bony part, that is approximating the top of your sacrum. It's a good spot for the band. We'll anchor it down with our hands, and we're pros because we did this before. But we're going to take the cat-cow motion concentrated right there as if that was the only thing that could move. And the band is our feedback. Usually at this place, letting go into the band gives us the arch, and then pushing a little bit into the band in as a specific emotion as possible. Noticing what part of the musculature is doing that for you. So 2 more. And then the next spot in the center of the lumbar, more or less right behind your navel. You're always in charge about how much resistance feels right for your body. Probably a bit more motion here. Letting go into the band to arch, and then pressing into the band to round. And we move just at that spot. So letting the upper spine be quieter in our attempt to isolate, which is unrealistic, but beneficial after the fact. Jaw relax, 2 more. And then the top of the lumbar, base of the thoracic, which is our bottom ribs. So feeling for those floating ribs, or where you feel the beginning of the arch of your lower back, the upper part. Happens to be where a diaphragm also has some roots. So noticing the same availability here may be helped with the breath more than the others. And just articulating, voicing rather, that we are choosing one plane of motion to wake this up, we could choose others. It's easiest to kind of speak to this because our spine is more felt from the back. So it's easier to kind of push back and forward, right? And the volume of going side to side, we couldn't articulate it with the same feedback. But just observe also a little bit of the difference from the right to the left, because we can feel those ribs. Okay. Next up, let's go to the lower part of the shoulder blades, which is not all the way up in your armpits, probably like 4 or 5 fingers below. Same thing here. The shoulder blades are going to be more of the movers, but try to imagine it from the spine. And we can give a little extra push through the hands. Shoulder blades come towards the spine as we drop towards the ground and away from the spine as we push into the band. Trying to keep the lower back and the neck quieter for 2 more. And then last time we went to the top of the shoulder blades. Let's skip that, but you can go there and many other places. Find the lowest cervical vertebrae, the biggest one you can feel, C7, where the curves change. And it's the lowest part of your neck you can access. Probably a little lighter on the band this time. It's right above the shoulder girdle. And see if we can isolate here. Also noticing what else moves in support, because isolation is a mental construct, not reality, but we keep trying so we can wake up those smaller, subtle articulations that allow for greater flow overall. And one more at the top of the cervical curve, at the top of the neck, base of the skull, the lightest yet. And now we're really moving the eyes, the skull. We do have a joint with the skull, so we're speaking to that little movement complex. Jaw relax, 2 more. And then coming out, since we do all have bands, open up the band. You can just sit for this however you like. And see if you can put the band right on the very top of your head. I always feel a little bit like a nun. And then we're going to hold in a way that just the weight of our arms is enough resistance. You can always slide down if you need to. And we want to be right in the middle, so we're not feeling a chin jutting out. You can hear that in my voice. We're not feeling a chin jutting down. The throat is nice and tall, finding a breath down underneath your ribs. Exhale, rise up into the band gently. Notice if you feel any other change down in your spine. Let's do that 2 more times. We kind of let it go as we breathe in. It's almost like you're going to squeeze out the toothpaste and it's going to shoot up, but there's also a connection down. Oh, we have puppy assistance. 1 more. And then release your band. And let's just try that side bend wagging 4s to down dog and see if we might have any more sense of little movement or overall integration, or maybe just more fun. So toes under, and we're going to start from the spine. Side bending to one side, feel that change in support. And go in your own pace. Think of it as coming from the spine first and the body responding. The supports finding that appropriate response. Interesting. I feel like my spine is more free, but my stretch on the outside ribs is more intense. Like I opened up the center river and I can feel more happening on the sides of it. I don't know what you feel. Maybe one or two more cycles. And then let's find our way into down doggish. And if you want, you can keep this little wag. Soften both knees a little bit and stretch your right leg to the sky. And do a little side bending to the left and see if that feels even more free and long in the top leg. If your bottom hamstring feels limiting, bend your knee. Change sides. So when we lift the left leg, our supports are more on the right. So we're gonna lean, side bend our hip and our ear towards the right and see if that feels more free in your hip, your leg, your lower back perhaps. And then come down and rest again, kneeling or child's pose just for a moment to feel. Empty the effort. And then let's lie down on our side. So we want to find a way that we feel really comfortable. We could have our arm as a pillow. We could have our arm as support like this. We could have our arm underneath. It's going to be up to you. And let's start with the other hand on the floor. It doesn't matter which side you're on. And we have this capacity to kind of move in a rolling way. The bottom leg, some form of bent, so it's also a support. And we could side bend to the supports, but the floor is down there. So it's not going to really be that helpful. We're so close to the ground. And let's free the top leg and start to bicycle. A big, slow, exaggerated push away, stretch behind, and then bend your knee and softly come forward. And let's see if we can feel that ripple through the upper body a little bit. It's really the spine, of course. So we might feel this counter rotation as the leg goes back, a little bit of a rolling of the heart forward. As the leg goes forward, a little bit of a rolling back. Don't make that happen. We'll go for 3 more and see if you feel a rippling through here. We've changed our relationship to gravity just to get some other information. One more. And then let's find the other side. You can just roll to the other side. I'm going to flip around so I can see. You can do it like this too if you want. And we have all the choices for support. And then this slow-mo exaggerated bicycle. I really feel like I'm yawning through the hose of my leg. So I'm really stretching on the inside. And just observe once you get the rhythm, the flow, the response and the resonance of the upper body. We have a couple things going on. We have this rolling, which is a counter rotation. And we probably have a little rounding flexion and a little arching extension. See if you can really feel that as a fluid, juicy, easy response rather than something you got to do. 2 or 3 more. Your arm can play if you want to. Big yawning feeling. One more. And then we get to change again to the first side. So my like behind the scenes intention is to number one, just unlock any rigid feelings in the spine. Number two, really feel this follow through. So now we're going to explore a little more, and you might choose a different lower arm and leg, but we're going to free both the top arm and leg just in any place they want to go. It could be the bicycle, it could be up in the sky. Let's see if we can free the arm and leg that's up above to swim, and imagine that there are flowing in conversation through the spine. And we don't need to think about moving the spine, but we're just watching from the outside how our spine is turning or arching or rounding to have that through line of communication. Free form, shoulder, hip love, as well as everything connects through the center line. Check your breath, check your smile, check what feels good to you. You're welcome to stay in any spot that feels like it wants some love. You have found a new pose. And the last few moments, is it really following through even then beyond your head? So your head is still part of that conversation, even though it's not, in the in between. It's related. If you like this, I encourage you, give permission to just play like this for a while. Can free a lot of things. And when you're ready, other side. Maybe even have a moment between the two to feel. And then second side. Since both limbs are moving, it might be a little different on the lower supports, and they might change too. How can you create the sense of the volume of space? Guiding with the limbs, impacting the spine and observing. What can you learn about yourself? Find inside yourself. I'm feeling one side is not like the other at all. Sounds are welcome. Making faces. Your tongue. If we think about the central channel of the spine, we have something called the deep front line, which is our sort of inner support on the tissue level. There's a lot of muscles in that line, but the tongue is part of it. So the tongue connects to your deepest support through the diaphragm, through the psoas even. Your chin and the front of your throat do. That might be interesting to add to the exploration for the last few moments. And then pour yourself onto your back, and let's find a big X and just pause to feel. And then with your right arm and leg, bend your arm Bend your knee. Squeeze it in as you stretch your left arm and leg away. Now we're going to change. Stretch the right arm and leg and bend your left elbow, bend your left knee, and bend the whole side. Squeeze it small. Back and forth slowly so that the change is a mirror, a balance change of our body half pattern. Some developmental movement. Change. One side opens, expands, the other side squeezing. Small, 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 small. Observe your spine. Shift towards the small side in our little side bend. And the roundness, the volume. Can the transitions be smooth on the ground? Smooth and round yourself. For one more each direction. Feel free to continue to play or find a place to rest. It might be on your side or on your back. Arms can be high or low. Take up a little bit of space. And become aware of your breath around the lower ribs, the diaphragm level. In the 360 degrees of your ribs. And then add the spherical volume of not only 360 degrees of the ribs, but also down through the spine and up through the spine at the same time as you expand the inhale. And imagine the exhale returns to the center point. Just observe that filling the whole container of the body, wide, side, front, back, up, down. And returning to a center point. Empty your eyes, your jaw. Feel the weight of your head and tail. And feel free to stay at rest as long as you like, or start to gently come back. Small movement, big stretches. And as you come back, see if you can use this pouring to support side bending of your spine to even make it a little easier, maybe smoother, maybe more fluid to come up to sit. Notice how you feel. Can you still find the breath expanding wide and long, tall? And allow your spine to be the conductor today. See what you find. Thank you all for being here. Our new time. Woohoo! Stop the recording. Give a little tiny update. Yeah.